Mr. Speaker, in relation to businesses, I'm really pleased to say we've got thousands of new jobs into the economy. We've got more investment in the last 20 years, an absolute record. Wages are up higher than prices. 3 interest rate cuts, the best boost for the cost of living for a very long time.
Welcome back, you lovely lot. Today we're diving into yet another episode of Britain, the Political Circus, where the clowns wear suits, the jokes write themselves, and somehow the audience always ends up paying. Yes, my dear viewers, today we have a double feature of absolute political brilliance. First, we'll explore how in modern Britain you can actually be fined for reporting illegal immigrants smuggling themselves into the country. No, you didn't mishear me. That's fined, not thanked. And then we'll take a moment to appreciate the absolute grilling Keirstarmer received in Parliament this week, which was so brutal it almost made him cry. But don't worry, he still managed to blame everything on the previous government because, well, that's his full-time job now.
A couple who found an illegal migrant hiding on the back of their motorhome after a 6-hour journey back from France have been issued a £1,500 fine by the Home Office for failing to check no clandestine entrant was concealed.
Adrian and Joanne Fenton called the police when they got home in Essex after finding the man zipped inside the cover of their bike rack, which is attached to the back of their motorhome. Well, they're appealing the fine, and they join us this morning from their home in Essex.
Britain, the land of queuing, stiff upper lips, and apparently being penalised for following the law. Now, picture this. You and your partner take a lovely trip to France. You enjoy the sights, you have a nice glass of wine or two, maybe even smuggle back some proper cheese because, let's face it, supermarket cheddar just doesn't cut it. And then you return to Blighty only to discover, surprise, an unexpected guest has hitched a ride on your vehicle. No, not your in-laws, an actual illegal hiding in your bike rack. And, being the honest, law-abiding Brit you are, what do? You report it, of course. That's what the government wants, right? Wrong. Because instead of being hailed as responsible citizens, this British couple found themselves...
Sir John Whittington.
Will the Prime Minister look at the case of my constituents, Mr. and Mrs. Adrian Fenton, who returned home from visiting France in their motorhome to discover an illegal immigrant concealed in the bike rack? They reported it immediately to the police, only to receive a fine from the Border Force of £1,500. Will he agree that my constituents ought to be thanked rather than punished? And does he accept that this action will send a message to deter anybody from acting responsibly in the future?
Apparently, we're now playing a game called Spot the Stowaway before Border Force spots you. And if you lose, it costs you more than a dodgy used car. So let's get this straight. You can't even report a crime without becoming the criminal. What's next?
Can I thank him for raising this important case on behalf of his constituents? I've seen some of the details and I am concerned about it, and I do think it's important, as he says, that the Home Office look into it, and therefore we will do so, and I'll make sure that he is updated in relation to that in due course.
Very good morning to you. You must regret calling the police.
Good morning.
Oh, definitely. There's no doubt it does not encourage people to call the police, because if you're going to call the police, you know you're going to be fined. So I think what Border Force has done is wrong.
Honestly, you can't make it up. Britain is the only place where you can be punished for cooperating with the law. It's like handing in your lost wallet to the police and getting arrested for being in possession of stolen property.
And what happened when you parked up?
When we'd left Calais, we'd actually been to the Carrefour, and from there to come home, I should imagine that was about 5-6 hours. And with that, as soon as we pulled up on the drive, my husband always goes to the back. He does the outside, I do the inside. And then all of a sudden, while I'm unpacking the inside, he goes, "Joe, there's someone on the back." And I sort of like, what do you mean there's someone on the back? He said, there's a migrant on the back, phone the police. So I've sort of like jumped out of the cab and phoned the police, and that was it. So, yeah, 5-6 hours he must have been on there for. Yeah, it was just a complete shock.
Now, you might ask, what got Starmer so rattled? Well, it was the usual, being held accountable for his government's failures. And of course his response was to immediately default to his favourite pastime, blaming everything on the previous Conservative government. You have to admire the dedication. The man's been in power for months, yet every problem is still somehow the fault of the previous government.
Can he explain how more expensive childcare is good for the economy or for working families struggling to make ends meet?
Well, Mr. Speaker, we're putting in childcare. Look at the breakfast clubs, 2 in her constituency. But she's rather forgetting the $22 billion black hole that they left, that we had to deal with. That's why we had to take the necessary but right measures we did in the budget. And what's her response? Not that she'd reverse them. Oh, no, she doesn't say that. She attacks what we've done, but she doesn't say she would reverse it because she wants all the benefits of our budget in return to investment, but she doesn't want to pay for it. That's how we got into the mess in the first place.
NHS crisis, cost of living, if his tea goes cold before he can drink it, probably the previous government's fault too. At one point, Starmer looked so overwhelmed I thought he was about to burst into tears. And honestly, I wouldn't blame him. If I got rinsed in Parliament on a weekly basis, I'd probably start crying too. I mean, I get it, Keir, that deflecting responsibility is a fine political tradition, but at some point, you've got to start doing your actual job instead of just blaming the last guy.
Why should these families pay more for less?
Well, she really shouldn't denigrate what she calls, I think, 60p breakfast clubs. She should be welcoming them. And she asked about council tax, Mr. Speaker. The Tories put up council tax every year for 12 years. Their manifesto, Tory LGA manifesto, government should remove the caps on council tax. And then Hampshire Council, Tory, wanted a 15% increase. We said no.
Mr. Speaker, the point is he promised to freeze and they are going up. And if he wants to talk about councils, let's look at Liverpool or maybe Birmingham, where the rubbish is piling up so high, people vote Labour and all they get is trash, just like what he's saying at the dispatch box.
If he was a football manager, he'd be blaming the previous coach for his team losing every single match. If you enjoyed today's deep dive into Britain's political madness, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments. Do you think Keirstarmer will ever stop blaming the Conservatives, or will he still be pointing fingers in 2050? Until next time, keep your sense of humour sharp, your sarcasm sharper, and your bike racks secure. Cheerio.